Hello, and welcome to my How to Have a Decent meeting, where I decided that I would, instead of having a good meeting, I'd make a decent video. I chose a video format over a picture one because I wanted to give you some insights into how you may look or sound depending on different situations that you're in. For example, what you sound like when you're talking in your car. What these MasterCard headphones sound like. And what plain old MacBook can deliver. Throughout this video, for every new shot that I take, you'll be able to see the mic details in the upper left-hand corner. I have 9 main points to delve into, showing how we can improve our meetings in general, but specifically our hybrid meetings. Let's dive in. This is what your default camera and microphone sound/look like. This is what you sound like when you're using in-ear microphones. And lastly, this is what you sound like when you use wired headphones and speakers. To me, those all sound very similar. So usually, the thing that I use to decide what kind of microphone I should be using is background noise. If I'm in a noisy environment, the more isolative sound that I need, the closer the mic needs to come to my mouth. That being said, Google's gotten pretty good at actually filtering out a lot of background noise. Hybrid meeting mic placement is tricky because if there's one thing you have to get right, it's letting the people that are not in the room hear what's being said. To accommodate them, you pretty much have to validate that everywhere in the room that somebody can sit, they can be heard. If you're in a conference room, you'll want to use one of our USB-C connected conference speakers. They have microphones in them. They're pretty good at capturing the whole room. You'll just need to make sure that people are nearish them. So if you're in dome, the people on the tables won't be heard very well, so have them move closer to the mics when they're speaking. But in situations where you don't need a lot of group input, but it's mostly 1 or 2 people speaking, I like to use these. They're lavalier mics, and they're clip-on, and they allow you to move freely around the room. Cameras love to find middle gray. It's the color in the middle of the color spectrum between white and black. The camera takes an average of all the pixels on the screen, the brightness they're in, and then changes the brightness of the entire image to meet middle gray. This means that if your background is very bright, like this, you will sink in darkness to compensate for the bright effect behind you. Now I'm top lit, which means the light is very bright, shining above me, leaving me with the hard to see features and not the most flattering effect on my face. So the perfect situation is where you and your background are both vaguely the same brightness, but more of the focus and attention is brought on you because you fill an appropriate amount of your frame and not the background. Your goal in a hybrid meeting is to make everyone in the meeting feel as included as possible, whether in person or virtual. Very often, when I host meetings, I look at the screen, which has notes or Jira or something up, and I feel very detached from the audience because I'm focused in on the screen, or I'm engaging with the people in the room. This alienates the virtual attendees of the meeting, and because I'm being less inclusive to them, it's likely that they will be less participatory in return. To help combat the sense of separation, I suggest that you do one of 2 things. You could, 1, take an opportunity to look at the webcam every once in a while, just to help the people feel included that are virtual, or choose a good camera position as if they were a member of the audience, being about eye level with everybody else, and so as you sweep the room to give the conversation, you look vaguely in their direction anyway. This video is all about connecting people in a room with people that are not, as seamlessly as possible. One of the risks of being an online participant is being left behind during a conversation that you're trying to unmute, and then people keep interrupting you because they don't see you unmuting. One of the ways to help spread visibility into your mutes and unmutes is to have the participants of the meeting displayed on a big screen. In our usual Google Meet scenario, with you as the host, you have 2 options to get your screen and the faces to show up on the screen at one time. The first of these options is picture-in-picture mode, which you can find in your Google Meet settings under the little kebab menu. It superimposes a picture of your meeting on top of whatever other Chrome instance you're running, which is great for if you're in Jira or sharing a Google Doc, but less great if you're doing a code review. Honestly, that option is kind of clunky and doesn't make a lot of sense unless you are the only person in the room with a computer. If anybody else does have a computer, what you can do as the host is just project your screen to the meeting and have somebody else project the meeting to the TV. That way, the participants in the room get to see your screen and also all of the virtual participants. When presenting during a meeting, it's almost a guarantee that someone is going to ask you for your slides or for a link to the document that you're looking at. To prevent the sort of last-minute hiccup, what you should do is if you're going to be presenting something to everyone and you know that in advance, you should send it out in the calendar invite, just to get everyone on the same page. Then anybody with visual impairments can view it on their own screen at their own pace, or people that are go-getters can go and pre-review your documentation so that you don't have to spend as long in your meeting. Hi, I'm Noah, and while I'm familiar with all the members of my team, other people on your call might not be as familiar, particularly clients. So it's always a good idea to start off whenever you say something by introducing yourself with your name, especially if it's your first time talking. When you're in an in-person meeting, you can ask a question that doesn't need any answers, like any more questions, and read the room and move on very quickly because you can see that nobody has any more questions. However, in an online space, finding the mute button usually takes 5 to 10 seconds, so it's important to give your participants that long or longer to make sure that they don't have any questions. If you do this, you may actually even find more in-room participation because of the awkward silences that people try to fill. The more participants that your meeting has, the higher stakes that it feels, the more likely it is that you're going to need help as you're running the meeting. So it may behoove you to appoint a co-host or an assistant to help you with the meeting. That can help in various aspects. One of these aspects is just making sure that you don't miss things from the comments, asking you good questions to help other people start conversing as well. If you have a meeting, particularly a meeting that's like a client engagement where it behooves you to present really well, it might be a good idea to go onto the meeting beforehand and make sure with both your host computer and another test computer to listen to make sure that everything is set up correctly, your video can present correctly, your audio is working right, and then you don't have that awkward bit like the first 5 minutes of the meeting where it's just you trying to fix why things don't work. Something you can do to be a good host and to be respectful of other people's time is to clearly define what conditions must be met for the meeting to end, and then, when those conditions are met, to end the meeting early. Being more efficient and systematic about your meetings will help others to come more prepared and more engaged to be the best team they can be.